I absolutely love this edition. I think this is probably the one that I'm most excited about, and just an unbelievable improvement over the Danny Green position. And I know there are a lot of people who have been defending Danny Green in recent weeks for the fact that he was actually a little bit better shooter than people realize in terms of his percentages, and the fact that he performed well and helped defense even if he wasn't great on the ball. And my thing with that is that I was a little bit more of a Danny Green pessimist in the sense that I thought his straight line drives that he consistently gave up actually really hurt their defense from the standpoint of, like the Lakers were a good recovery defense. They were good at defending when they did give up either a double team or a straight line drive because they were good in their rotations. However, that doesn't mean you want to always exist in that chaotic state if you can avoid it. And one of the great things with Wesley Mathews is, what he gives up in a little bit of size, because Danny Green's size and was what allowed him to be a good help defender. But Wesley Mathews is so much better at the point of attack. And the Lakers, especially against quick guards, you saw this a lot against Kemba Walker. You saw this a lot against what's his name, Jamal Murray from Denver. Any of these really good shifty guards that could get to the basket, the Lakers were giving up a ton of straight line drives to guys like that. And Wesley Mathews is one of the few perimeter defenders that we have in the league that can succeed in that type of matchup. And he can succeed in that big physical wing matchup. He had a lot of success against both LeBron and Kawhi this year because he's that rare combination of strong and really laterally quick. He is the kind of player that will have a guy like Kawhi and LeBron constantly fading away over the top of him. And so it gives you a much better defensive option to throw at the Kawhi matchup, a much better defensive option to throw at a Kevin Durant matchup that could potentially come down the line, or a Giannis Antetokounmpo matchup potentially down the line. And then in terms of his, so Bucks fans who have complained about Wesley Mathews have complained about him, occasionally being a little bit too dribble happy, trying to do too much attacking closeouts from time to time, and being a little bit inconsistent from time to time shooting. But the reality is Danny Green did those exact same things. I used to complain nonstop about Danny Green trying to do too much off the dribble, attacking the basket, and forgetting his role, sometimes attacking closeouts. So if you look at that as kind of a wash, I'm looking at a guy who is a little bit more consistent of a shooter. Danny Green was more prone to cold spells than Wesley Mathews is. And then I think Wesley Mathews is just a much better point of attack defensive player. So you're looking at, and the other thing too is, I talk about this all the time, but one of the things that I think made the Laker defense genius was the fact that they took away the 3-point line and forced guys to drive into Anthony Davis and LeBron, who were such good backline defenders. And then Dwight Howard obviously was good in that role. But their scheme was designed to chase guys off with ball pressure. And Wesley Mathews is one of the best, full court ball pressure defensive guards that we have in the league. And the fact that we can have him at that number is just amazing to me. And to me, it speaks to what I talked about a lot right after the championship, which was the Lakers position themselves to be the best team for these buyout type of guys. And I'm sure you guys just saw on Twitter just a few seconds ago, the Charlotte Hornets bought out Nicholas Batum, and he might be the next guy that they could potentially get at a veteran minimum. But those sorts of things, Wesley Mathews is a reward for having a LeBron and an Anthony Davis on your team, and he's a reward for winning a championship. You don't just get a trophy; you get guys like Wesley Mathews, and I think he is something that Laker fans are going to really enjoy rooting for this year.
So I think you hit a lot of good things. His point of attack defense, his shot discipline, his discipline behind attacking closeouts, and just that aspect of his game. And a lot of folks are attributing him to just being sort of a lateral move when it comes to Danny Green's departure and stuff like that. Now, since Danny Green's departure, we've also seen that Avery Bradley's left. And the way that I like to describe Avery Bradley's, I have two ways of categorizing defenders, right? There are high effort or three. You have bad defenders who get lost, don't remember where their guy is. They have low effort. They don't make the extra, cut this way and then cut back to try and cut the guy off and stuff like that. They don't fight over screens. Those are low effort, poor defenders. But then in the category of good defenders, I have two specific categories. One is a high effort defender. A good example of a high effort defender is actually somebody like Kuz. Like he's instinctually not like a great defender, but he moves his feet. He tries to stay in front of guys, tries to keep his body in front of somebody if they're trying to drive and stuff like that. Sometimes they'll get blocking fouls and all that sort of stuff. Wesley Mathews reminds me of the kind of defender that Avery Bradley is, which is this other category, is he's a technically sound defender. That not only does he move his feet, his instincts, his ability to absorb somebody trying to drive by him or try to beat him off the hip and be able to use his strength or use his, be able to poke the ball away. All those technically sound things that guys like Tony Allen have basically made careers for themselves over, a guy like Avery Bradley has, even guys like Kawhi Leonard, the ability to anticipate a dribble path or anticipate a driving path, being able to cut, be able to shade your hips from right to left, all those small things that make good defenders, great defenders, and then obviously the elite ones are the ones that can figure out exactly where you want to go before you want to go. I think Wes Mathews falls into the category of a technically sound defender. And that is definitely something that's important to the Lakers because with us losing Avery Bradley, we don't, I would say the only technically sound defender that we have outside of obviously Anthony Davis and LeBron James is probably Alex Caruso. He's a very technically sound defender. And so adding Wesley Mathews helps add more technically sound defenders, guys that can hold you up at the point of attack and that sort of thing. But Wes Mathews also adds one other thing that I think that a lot of folks were talking about when it came to the Lakers last season. And he seems to play with a nasty streak himself when he plays basketball. One of the things that I've seen in the way that he likes to play is he doesn't wait for you to make your move. He'll come after you if you're being lazy with the ball. And that nastiness is something that the Lakers maybe lacked a little bit for a while. And it wasn't something that they necessarily got out of Danny Green's role because Danny Green was, a little bit more reactive and less proactive. Avery Bradley was probably a little bit more of that nasty kind of defender that nastiness in his defense that we like. So, Alex, what do you think about adding a guy with that sort of personality to this team and adding him to the starting lineup, adding a guy who brings that sort of nastiness on that perimeter? Does that you think that sort of like adds to like the energy that the rest of that starting lineup probably will have?
I mean, I think so. I mean, look, one, Avery Bradley is gone, right? And he was kind of he'd get in your grill. He's kind of an energy guy. A little bit. KCP's an energy guy as well, but it's something about Bradley. He had a little more of a dog in him. I hate using that word, but a little more dog in him the way that he played on defense, right? And Caruso has that also. I like Wes Mathews, man. I mean, look, Danny Green was what, $15 million a season?
Yeah.
You get, whether you think he's better or not, even if he's comparable at 3.6, he is a different kind of wing defender, though. And he did shoot better last season, but I think it's a win for the Lakers to get him at that price. I think that he would slot right into the spot, into the starting lineup. Not sure who they would have as the other guard with, a lot still other moves be made, but